Hi everybody, Martha Joyce here. This week it's really me, it's not an avatar. We want to this week look at week 3 material where we're still working on medical word elements, and this particular week we'll look at body structure. So you're going to read and study pronunciation, directional terms, plural and singular forms of words, planes of the body, body cavities, regions, and quadrants. And with regard to visuals within your textbook, if you look at page 12 and 13, you'll have some good guides. The body is divided into levels of organization, and when you look at the most basic level, it's the cellular level, and the study of cells is called cytology. And then we move up to tissue, and that is the study of tissue is called histology. And then at the organ level, we're looking at least 2 tissue types combined. The next level is the system level, and those contains varying numbers of organs and accessory structures. And on upwards from that, we're considering the whole organism, and so that's the complete living entity capable of independent existence. So we actually are organisms. Next, we want to look at plural suffixes, and typically we use the singular form, and then we need to know how to turn those into plural forms and to pronounce them. And so I've given you a chart in your instructor notes. You'll take a look at those, and you see in the chart where you're looking at, typically you're going to look at the ending of the word, and when you see words that end in A, such as vertebra, you're going to turn that into the plural form by making the A an AE instead. And so you go from vertebra to vertebrae or vertebrae. And you may be wondering when you look at some of these words and many other medical words how to pronounce them. And I know you have an audio CD, or you probably got an audio CD when you bought your book. But there is a website that could help you pronounce words. You can hear how they're pronounced, and it's howjasay.com. That's HOWJSAY.com, and I'll put a link in your weekly folder for that, or I'll make an announcement so that you have that website. It's pretty handy. And then for words that end in AX, such as thorax, what you're going to do is drop the X at the end of the word and add ACES. So you go from thorax to thoraces. Next on the list, you have words that end in IS, and what you do to make those plural is you drop the IS and add ES. And the example word is diagnosis, and that becomes, in the plural form, diagnoses. Next, you have words that end in IX or EX. A good example is appendix, and that being, when we're talking about the body, an accessory, basically useless accessory that's part of the GI system. And in order to change that word to a plural word, you're going to drop the IX or EX and add ICES, and so it becomes appendices. The next word is the next example are words that end in UM, and you actually, when you change those words to plural, you're going to drop the UM and add an A, and the example is diverticulum, and it becomes diverticula. Diverticula being the plural form. You also have words that end in US, and what you do to change those from singular to plural is drop the US and add an I. So the example that you're given is thrombus, and that would become thrombi. Last example that you're given, words that begin or end with Y, and in order to change those from singular to plural, you drop the Y and add an IES. And the example that you're given is ovary, which is singular. To change it to plural, it's ovaries. And that you're probably relatively well familiar with. because that's the sort of thing that we all learned as we were coming through school. Drop the Y and add IES to make something plural. The next topic in your notes is anatomical position and planes. And if you just want to read along with me, body position is used as a reference when describing anatomical parts in relation to each other. When considering anatomical position, view the body as erect, arms hanging down to the sides with the palms of the hands facing forward. And then furthermore, planes, or imaginary planes that is, divide the body into sections. And if you now turn to the topic of body cavities, in your book on figure 1-2, you will see two major cavities. You'll see the dorsal cavity, which consists of the cranial and spinal cavities. And then you'll also see the ventral cavity, which consists of the thoracic or chest region, and abdominopelvic cavities. And then within the abdominopelvic region, you have more divisions, and those are divided into quadrants and regions. Quadrants, the word quad has a word part, or quadrant has a word part quad, that means four, and so naturally when you're talking about a quadrant, you're going to have four parts, and those are often seen abbreviated like RUQ for right upper quadrant, RLQ for right lower quadrant, and then we go to the lower part of the quadrant and you have left upper quadrant, that would be LUQ, and then you have left lower quadrant, LLQ. All right, then if we move on to regions, if you'll just flip over to figure 1-3 in your book, you'll find 9 regions of the body. With regard to directional terms, you'll see that these are used extensively, and they're important in understanding where things are located in relation to the body or to anatomical parts. I'm going to be sure to study these. And the first one in the list that I gave you is proximal, and so that's nearer to the origin or point of attachment. So if you're looking at, let's find my arm up here, proximal, nearer to the point of attachment for my arm would be up here, and then distal, we're going to jump down in the list, distal would be further away. Medial is towards the midline, so going to the midline of the body. And then superior would be above or near the head. And then a little further down on the list, kind of have like the opposite of that, which would be inferior, and that would be closer to the feet or towards the feet. Anterior is towards the front or near the front, and that's also called ventral. And deep would be further into the body. So here you have superficial, and then deep would be further in. If I can poke my face here, further in, actually internal. Let's see what else is on the list here. Remember medial, that's towards the midline, and then if you go to lateral, that's off to the side. So lateral is off to the side or towards the side. And then posterior is towards the back, and it's also called dorsal. And let's see, we have abduction and adduction. And if you think of those two terms, they look really similar. They're often confused. Abduction, think of taking away. You hear of people being abducted. So here you have your arm, and in order to abduct, you're just moving away from the point of attachment. And adduction is moving towards. So here's abduction away, adduction towards. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the video because I won't be able to upload it if it gets any longer, and we'll move on to the next video in the next week.